Having a true customer-centric point of view is easier said than done. It's really starting with what is success for you? And we can spend all day talking about all the products, but if I don't really understand that, nothing else matters. Managing multiple stakeholders in an enterprise sale is not a new thing, but it's more than managing multiple stakeholders. It's really about helping to facilitate a conversation where they're all understanding the problem in the same way. Companies that are in their growth stages, it's a team sport. It takes everybody.
Matt, do you notice I'm wearing a SoCal hat on your behalf?
It's an Angels hat. It's an odd choice. The Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim.
Why is that an odd choice?
Is that a legit team? It's a legit team. I should know this. Is that a team?
See, there we go. There we go. There we go.
This is way too bro-y already, man. Lauren's going to bring us all the way back.
I told you, I am bringing color, like reds and pinks and oranges. I am bringing flowers. I'm
Interior
girling
design like crazy. I mean,
I'm girling
it
up
looks like
the
a Nancy
show.
Myers film behind you.
We should do a show, Sam, where we just rank background, because I'm going to say I used to think Sydney's was pretty good because she always gets the flowers from Matilda's Bloom Box or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so hers looks, but this is
next level.
Yeah, this is some next level shit. I mean, the flowers are beautiful. The color combinations of some of the things in the background as well.
The bookcases.
I will say this was a pandemic rosé Saturday luncheon mashup with my girlfriend. That it's the product of that.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's amazing. I love it.
I mean, what else did you do during the pandemic on a Saturday? Like you just rearranged your background because you stared at it all day.
Yeah, by the way, I don't even remember what I did with my background. For years, I took calls in my basement in my old house, and nobody noticed or said anything until the pandemic, when I was always on a call with them. The thing about the basement, too, was it's like 5 feet tall. So
low ceiling.
I would go in, very low ceiling, very low ceiling. I could have done, I think Matt's background is like...
as sterile as it gets. This is eggshell white, by the way.
Yeah, it's like 70s public school background. And then mine's just an office. It's not cool at all. Lauren loves this.
If Craig would just lift his shades, my home is just over his left shoulder.
That's true.
Oh, seriously? You guys are waving from afar?
I always wanted to, and he's always said he would, and then he never did. He worked here when Sydney was here, and he would say to us, I'm going to paddle board over, and then he never did. He never did.
There was no place to lock up my paddleboard.
That's the transport to and from work these days, huh?
Mm-hmm.
That's
There's
pretty
a small
sweet.
body of water just right there.
I love it. Gorgeous.
He would not get wet. So
from ABM to PLG, from Medic to MedPick, the world of business is constantly evolving. We'll cover the who, what, where, when, why, and most importantly, how you get the transaction. I'm Matt Amundson, and he's Craig Rosenberg. Let's get started.
we have a very, very special guest.
Sure do.
That's right.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. As I introduced Lauren, so I've known her for a long time because she's been in like the marketing agency game forever. Like literally.
It's a lot of years.
Like, yeah.
Very short time. Very short time.
Matt,
Just
do you remember
grad.
Babcock? Do you remember Babcock and Jenkins? Yeah. She was, you would like be just walking down the street, turn around, and there was Lauren. There was no harder hustler on the agency customer acquisition front than Lauren. It was.
Thank you.
That's how we always knew where you were. So now you're with Winning by Design.
I am.
And probably hustling, millions of deals there as well. And then the Women in Revenue. The thing about Women in Revenue is we see you guys now all on social all the time. And then, I have friends who, I just introduced Lauren to Catherine Reagan, who I know, who's like, hey, I'm going to this Women in Revenue thing. Do you think it's cool? I'm like, I know Lauren. So that seems like Women in Revenue's made a significant comeback, right? Like it's been around for a while.
It's been around for a while, and I think we are definitely getting back into market. So yes, it is definitely making a comeback. We are seeing the need more than ever, and we can definitely talk about that later. I'd love to.
Awesome.
Oh yeah, we're happy to talk about that. So get listeners to the transaction. Today's guest is my good friend and hustler extraordinaire and literally knower of everyone. If you want like to match networks, like it'd be tough to beat Lauren's. It's Lauren Goldstein, who has the best background in the history of transaction guests.
Yes.
Lauren, welcome aboard.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Matt.
Yeah.
Do you guys know each other?
I don't. This is my first time.
I don't think we've
meeting
met.
her. I've seen her on social. I've seen her around.
Yeah, of course.
But this is our first time meeting, and I think that's one of the things that I love so much about this show is when there's a person that I've always wanted to meet, and they're just on the show, and I get to act like I'm their peer. It's amazing.
Right. Lauren's one of those where you've known her for years, but you don't know her.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Because she's just been like 100% hustle always. Just great stuff. And by the way, I mean hustle in the most complimentary of terms. Thank you.
Yes, exactly.
So here's what we do. We have 2 questions that guide the show. The first one we have to mention is the Matt Amundson feature enhancement 2.1a. So, the best stuff on the show has been stories. So he's like, let's just lead with a story. So what we asked the guests is, like, tell us a great go-to-market story or company building story or anything. It could be funny, heartwarming, you name it. It's up to you, but like, take it away.
I mean, listen, I think that if I was going to tell a story, it would be a happy story, and it would be the story of women in revenue. I mean, you asked a little bit about like what my day job is, and it is focused on winning by design and helping people be the best go-to-market strategists that they can be, and helping them, thoughtfully grow their business with revenue architecture. And while I care a lot about those things, it's a great, it's a great organization. Where my heart and soul really is with women in revenue and the founding story behind the organization. So if I can take us back to circa 2018, we meaning myself and several of our founders were at a Dreamforce, and we were sitting in a room, and we were listening to some really smart people talk about the trends and what was happening in the world of B2B and demand and B2B and go to market. And there was not a single woman up on the stage. And it just kind of hit us all in a similar moment. I'll give a call out to Sherry Johnston, who was also in the room that day. And a couple weeks later, I get a phone call from her. Jen Demas, I know everybody knows Jen Demas, got a phone call from her. Tracy Eiler got a phone call from her. So 9 women got a phone call from Sherry about 3 weeks after that event and said, hey, listen, like, we've all been in this business for a long time. We've all been the only girl in the room. Like, we need to change the dynamics. Like, who wants in? And she threw out the most like audacious story ever, which was, we're going to fast forward 6 weeks from now, and we're going to get 100 women to come together and form some sort of a group. I think it'll be something about women in revenue. But yeah, in 6 weeks from now, we're going to get 100 women. And I said, Sherry, you are absolutely out of your mind. This is the craziest thing I've ever heard. I'm getting goosebumps. I get goosebumps every time I tell the story. So sure enough, we all go in, we find somebody who has a connection at the Battery. We're like, that's a sweet venue. We can get women there. At this point in time, this whole, push to get women on boards was a big deal. So we go out and we find some badass women like Megan, who've done the thing, who've gotten on, boards, and we pull her in. We pull in some women from private equity or who are actually helping get women on boards, and we assemble this great panel. We sold out this event. I think we had room for like about 125 people in this room. We sold out this event in 3 days.
Amazing.
And we knew we were onto something. So anyway, there's a lot more history there, but I will just share kind of that founding story of 10 women coming together, seeing a common problem, which is how do we get more women in the room to have roles in leadership. And that was the early days of Women in Revenue.
Awesome. What an amazing group of women too. Some people I've looked up to my entire career, like Tracy and Sherry. I've just admired them and their work. And unfortunately, for a long time, I actually had to compete with Sherry Where
were you? Okay, we won't name names. Got it. Yes.
We don't have to name names, but man, she is just one hell of a marketer. And Tracy, I've always looked up to, and she's just great. Obviously, everybody else that you named too is fantastic, but those two are just really special people to me.
I have a pretty funny story of Matt v. Sherry.
Oh,
really? Oh, wow. Do tell.
So, like at Topo, we sort of had the two roles of analyst and sort of hands-on, with the customer. And Matt's CMO at the time was Jim Walker, he's a knife fighter. He's a swashbuckler, right?
Yeah.
He's playing to win, like in a way you respect, like to no end. And so he said, I did an interview for him on a product release, I believe. And then he's like, well, how about this? I'm going to write a quote, and when you clear it, I'll post it as long as you clear it. So he's too good. He doesn't clear it. And it's like, these guys are the best, essentially. I was at Radius where Sherry was the CMO.
Yeah.
Okay. Supporting a sales training for Robert Kaler in front of like 100 people. And I get this ping and I look down and I'm like, oh my God, that's not my quote. But I can't tell Sherry that's not my quote. So everyone sort of clears out and Sherry just walks over and someone was saying something like, that was really great. And Sherry just goes, yeah, if Craig hadn't done that ridiculous quote earlier, I think I'd be happy. Bam! Just
sizzle.
Nails me.
Yeah.
And I had to take it because I couldn't say, well, Walker's, did that to me. And so I'm like texting Walker. I'm like, dude, I'm sitting, I didn't want to tell him I'm sitting in Radius. I'm like, I'm sitting here dying, dude. You didn't get that quote cleared. You got to take it down. He's like, oh, sorry about that. I'll do it. And then he does it the next day. He's so good. Like that was like CMO gamesmanship. So like, and Sherry was so mad. And I've known Sherry for years when she was like demand gen leader at Demand Base. Like,
oh yeah, that's when I met her too.
Man, it was like, that was one of the most uncomfortable scenarios of all time. So yeah, that was Matt v. Sherry.
But Matt's made up for it. Obviously, he's on the good side now.
Yeah, I have a ton of respect for her. I mean, for those keeping score at home, one of our companies was acquired, but just...
Oh, man. There it is. Jeez. Oh, God. You had to do that. Hey, going back to your story, though, I've never understood why this happened. Like, now.
Say
right?
more.
When you guys had to launch Women in Revenue, it always felt like I was always around really high-powered, effective women. I never realized. And then, I guess this is part of the problem, because once it started to get, more publicity and you guys sort of raised the idea, then I went, oh my God. And then I would be on a panel, with all men, and I'd start to realize that. But I still don't get it, because it shouldn't have happened, because at that point, even when I started to realize that, there was a lot of women in revenue that were doing amazing things. So like what, as you guys sort of dug into this, was it just, what was it?
I think there's a lot of different dynamics. Listen, I don't know that I'm going to do the perfect job explaining like what some of the challenges are. So I will share some data if a little bit of data would be helpful. But, there's a couple different dynamics that, that we see. Like, first and foremost, guys have the benefit of some deep networks. And there was a lot of unofficial mentorship going on. And whether that mentorship took place like on the golf course, whether that mentorship took place around a poker table, whether it took place, I think in a lot of different settings, there was a lot of like unintentional, but like important mentorship going on. And I think you could say that same thing about when, private companies were adding board members, like who did they reach out to? They reached out to like people that were in their immediate network. And so all of a sudden you get a lot of like disparity, not because there was any sort of like intentional, like, hey, let's block the girls out of the room, but more like, hey, this is who's in my network. Like, I'm going to bring them to the table. So I think that that's one kind of issue that we've seen that we're trying to address. And so, two of the main offerings that we have, the first is, hey, let's give women and girls an opportunity to get some speaker training. Let's not just like encourage them to go show up in a room and not be properly trained. Like, let's first get them trained. So we have a speakers bureau to help support that. And the speakers bureau isn't just for the up leveling, but it's also helping them find the places that they can show up. Actually, our event earlier this week in New York, we pulled 3 women into a panel with Tracy Eiler. All 3 women were badass leaders, but had never had formal training until they met women in revenue. So that's one example.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you're doing what you're doing. Again, I'm more confused about how we got here. I'm not confused about the situation. That sure. I can tell. And you learn a lot. By the way, I think the one thing is I often don't notice, and that's probably part of the problem. And like, like mansplaining. I didn't know that I mansplained, and then someone told me, dude, you just mansplained Christina, who, by the way, doesn't need a mansplain. And I was like, what is that? Right. What, really? And then occasionally I'll do it, and I'm like, damn it. But more importantly, I totally notice it now, right? I'm like, bro, you mansplained that so hard. But it's because you got to bring that up. You got to, you have to make us conscious of it. It's unfortunate, but it just is. Like, now that I know it, I look for it all the time. I see it all the time. I try to check myself. I try to, all of those things. So you're doing, the work you do does make a difference if you didn't know that.
Yeah. I mean, listen, like, there is the men are from Mars and women are from Venus. Like, when you ask, like, what's the genesis of it? Like, it just may be like what our DNA looks like, Craig. I am sure there is a much more like thoughtful, forward looking or, academic answer to it. But I just think men and women are different. Like, I share this both from a statistics perspective, but also from my own experience. I have a sales team. There are men on the team and there are women on the team. And I can share this story from every company that I've been in. The men 100% of the time push harder in the negotiation for their salary, 100% of the time. And the women don't ask. And it's something that is just like, I think core to the DNA. Along those lines, actually, I was at a Women in Revenue event last week, Amanda Kalo. It was an amazing thing. She pops up and she said, one thing she's committed to now is when that happens, actually saying to the women, like, hey, do you know what your counterpart asked for? And making sure that she helps to not just create parity. She doesn't want to like give out extra money. That's not her point. Her point is educating the woman in the process to say, like, this is something important you need to do.
I mean, I think, it's so interesting to me because I came to Silicon Valley later in my career. So I wasn't here until like 2011. And the first time I was at Dreamforce, there was, equal parts men and women. I worked at Marketo, and the leaders there were pretty well balanced. I was very lucky to work with Maria Pergolino, who's like long been a champion of diversity in the workplace, like long before people started talking about it from a DEI perspective. And really early on, one of the things that she sort of taught me about was this concept that, like, if you have a diverse leadership team, like, you're better. You're better. Yeah. Actually, like all the reports point to the fact that your company's going to be more successful. You want like not just the diversity of people, but the diversity of ideas. And you're selling to all different types of people. You're marketing to all different types of people. It's important that those folks are represented on your operating team. And that's something that I've always taken to heart. And I can recognize it from places where I've been earlier in my career that were very male dominant. And it's sort of like, hey, maybe they were successful, maybe they weren't. But I've always been around organizations that were truly successful, and they all had one thing in common. They had diversity in the leadership team.
So beautifully said, Matt. Thank you. Yes, I love that. I love that.
Look at Matt.
I know. That's like a big heart.
Yeah, Craig often sort of takes credit for giving me my first public speaking opportunity, which is largely true. But
okay.
Just prior
let's
to
see where
that,
this is going.
Yeah, Tracy gave me my first public speaking opportunity, and I actually spoke at Sales Kickoff at Inside View. And this was maybe like 2 months before. And like, it may seem like something really silly to say like, hey, come here to our SKO and present as a customer. But it's really nerve-wracking. There was 400 people in the room. And it was this really great growth experience for me. And I owe her a lot because of that, because, over the course of the next 5 years, I spoke at a Topo Summit. Then next thing I knew, I was speaking at SaaStr. Then I was speaking at Dreamforce, and it all just kind of snowballed from there. And it's like these simple moments where you just give somebody an opportunity to speak their mind in front of a group. Most people don't get that opportunity. And I think that that's one of the things that you're hinting at here is like, there's people who are great. There are people who are talented, but they don't often get the opportunity or the recognition to speak in front of people, to have a seat at a board, to present at a large scale conference like Dreamforce, and recognizing that and saying, hey, we want to make a change here because these people are talented. We're not just forcing people onto the stage for the sake of forcing them onto the stage, but it's sort of hey, we want to recognize greatness, and it comes in all forms.
Right.
Love that.
Yeah, no, listen, we need to get you into the women in revenue community, Matt. Like, please join. And
I feel like I know all these founders of it. Like, they're some of the best sales and marketing people I've ever met in my career.
And listen,
the events
I think
look great. Yeah,
the events. I mean, the food's good, the drinks are good. I mean, to be perfectly honest, like, we all can cite stories too of having amazing male mentors in our life. Like, almost every woman in revenue can lean into that. So, yes, join, get involved, be a mentor. It's so important. And I'd say that's the other kind of big thing. So if the speaking side of it and helping get women trained and up-leveled with their speaking, the other side of it is just pure mentorship. Back to the comment of like, it's unbelievable how women have such a hard time saying, actually, I'm worth more. And having a mentor who can kind of not only, educate you on what, average salary should be, or how to negotiate your exit package. Actually, that's something Regan and I were talking about that women never do. Like, how do you negotiate your exit package on the way in? And just even things like how to balance work and life. And some people don't love the word balance. Sometimes people like it's, how do you integrate it, or how do you, whatever it is, but those things are all really coachable, and it's nice to have someone who can, have eyes that have traveled further than yours.
Yeah. Okay. That was a meaty first section on the story there.
Yeah,
it was high impact.
Glad you asked.
Okay. So the second question is, when we started the show, the idea was that a new playbook is emerging on go-to-market, and we were talking to people trying to figure those things out, and we started to have fun having those conversations. We're like, well, let's take it to a podcast. And so every show is guided by this question, which is, what's something that the market thinks they're doing right, approach, methodology, strategy, tactics, whatever, and they're actually wrong, and they should be thinking differently, and what is it? And what should they be doing about it? Go.
So I had to think on this. First of all, it's a great question. And I don't want to assume that the whole market is doing it wrong, but having a true kind of customer-centric point of view is easier said than done. I think that the majority of brands out there, the majority of tech companies, that's kind of the world that a lot of us live in, think that they are meeting customers in a way that is helpful. I really do. I think brands think that they are meeting customers in a way that is helpful. And as somebody who has the benefit of having spent most of my career in consulting, I've worked with, over 1,500 tech companies, easy, startups, scale-ups, the likes of the Googles and the Microsofts and the Dells, the big guys. And I will tell you, if there is one pattern recognition that is more prominent in all of these companies, and maybe not all, that's too strong, in the majority of these companies, it's that they think that they are connecting with their customers in the way that the customers want. And in fact, you still get that show up and talk about the product over
Yeah,
and over
so
and
true.
over and over again.
Isn't it unreal?
Mm-hmm.
But you've always actually. I have one for you. Dive it. Well, do you want to keep going, or can I just?
No,
Can
I love the segues. They're good. Go.
Because you are great with. So let me just make sure everyone understands. It's not just the hustle, like the customer acquisition. By the way, agency work is hard.
Really hard.
Right? Getting new customers is hard. It's all about you got to get the one and keep it and then try to grow it.
Yes.
Lauren has always been the best in the business. So like now, what have you changed in the way you engage with customers, or haven't you? And like, what could we learn from you and how you do it?
That's a great question. I mean, I think that, if there's one question that I've asked, even back in the days of Babcock Jenkins, it's usually starting with something like, Craig, we're here, we're talking about our go-to-market, but like, what success look like for you? And I think it's really starting with like, what is success for you? And we can, spend all day talking about all the products that we have that we can, help ensure that happens. But if I don't really understand that, nothing else matters.
So that's not new, but so do we feel like we got away from it? Is that kind of the deal? Because what you described in your answer is a definite issue. Like,
yeah.
100%. But like, how did we get there? Because like that question you have, if you've been doing it since Babcock, that's 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
Better than everyone?
Am I better than everyone else? No, I don't know. Do people start there? Like I think about, in the early days at Babcock, for instance, I mean, one thing that we help companies do better than anyone else was to really like get to the heart of who their buyer personas were and map content. I mean, at that time, that was a very provocative thing. We actually, one of my those 3 balls back there, that was a content marketing award when the Content Marketing Institute was like big on the scene. But
they did everything in orange.
Everything in orange. And like, I am so proud of that award. But it really was about, being customer-centric in the heart of it, right? And when I went to go and work at Annuitas, I would say that they did an amazing job of really helping to understand what customer pain points were and not just developing amazing content to address the needs of customers, but they were also and still are amazing at stitching together the technology to deliver, right time, right place, right message. And I even look at winning by design, and the reason why I love being at an organization like this is that they use this framework called SPICED, which stands for understanding a customer's situation, the pain, the impact that they both need rationally and emotionally, the critical event that they're up against, and the decision and how that decision will get made. Like if I look across like the 3 kind of primary places I've spent my career, each of these companies is obsessed and focused on understanding what the customer needs to be successful.
Is that a missing piece for the vast? I'm just like,
yeah,
I don't
provoke,
think people
prod.
do. Yeah, I know. I actually, I think it's wild that we're still talking about that. How's that? Like, isn't it crazy? Like,
I mean, you tell me, listen, at scale and in the roles that you're at, you talk to companies all day long. I mean, do you think when you see the pitch, do you think that it's with the customer in mind, or is it with the like dream of what the product either does or someday could do that is like the dazzling object in the call?
Oh, well, first of all, our portfolio, they all pitched fantastically, Lauren. So
Okay.
I'm going to actually, no, actually, we got the perfect thing, Lauren, for your question. Matt gets pitched all the time. So like, Matt, do you feel like folks are understanding your needs better than before, or are people going right to what Lauren just described?
I think what Lauren's talking about is really appropriate for what's happening right now, because more often than not, the pitches that I hear today are, let me tell you about the way you should want it to be, instead of understanding what I actually want and then how to integrate that solution into what I'm building, what my goals are, the way I want my department to be structured, etc. People today just to show up and they're kind of like, hey, we've got this thing and it does this. and it's really all about them, right? And like they'll be like, oh no, it's all about you. I got to do all this discovery and whatnot, and it's not, and I know that it's not. And there's been like, the reality is since I've been in a position to be buying something, maybe for the last 10 years of my career, there's like 2 or 3 times in my entire career where I've actually been on a sales call that like truly stood out and was actually about me or actually about my business. And I can remember them super, super clearly. The rest all feel like the same. Like I couldn't determine one from the other. They're all kind of the same. I do think, and I don't mean to like try to diagnose how we got here, but I do think the sales tactics that were, and tactics might be the wrong word, but like the sales culture of the pandemic did really blunt a lot of edges. And what I mean by that is like people got really lazy with the way they sold during that time period. And I think that there is also an entire generation of sellers that had their first sales jobs during that time period, and they don't understand fundamentals. They don't really know, hey, what did it take to move product in 2010 or 2005 for that matter, right? Like They are so used to, hey, someone's coming inbound because they need a thing and I'm just going to show them what the thing is and then I'm going to send them a contract and whiz bang, we're off and running. And I just don't think that moves product today. It just doesn't. I can tell you, having been sold to for, ever since starting this job, like there's nothing that stood out to me in a sales cycle, nothing.
Take that, sales reps that have pitched Matt over the last 10 months.
In your face.
By the way, that means Lauren's comment is correct 99%, like that.
Yes.
Basically, that's what you're saying. Hey, I've got one for you guys. I got to get your reaction. Because, I called Dan Gottlieb and I'm like, because we're having our go-to-market summit and it's how to market and sell AI. And I'm like, well, what are you seeing? And he had all this cool stuff. But one that he said that they're seeing that, because the thing with AI is as you guys know, you got it. Like he has this saying, which is sell the work, then the AI, right? So you got to figure out the work. And he's like, but that's on the buyer's side. Here's the thing he said. One of the tactics he said is the reverse demo, where you don't demo your product. You have them outline what they're doing and how they're set up as that's the demo you take. Yeah. All right. Reaction to that, Lauren.
I like it. I mean, I think that if they're trying to demonstrate to the seller the problem they're trying to fix, is that what he's suggesting with the reverse demo? Like, I like the notion of it.
Yeah, but you said it, like in the jobs to be done scenario, like oftentimes we're going to come on and I don't know, I'm just trying to think of in sales tech, it's like you sort of, maybe you either have a whole breadth of things that you sell or you have one thing.
Yeah.
In either use case, we, in the breadth, we go in and we go, so tell me what keeps you awake at night, right?
Right.
In the very specific one, we try to lock it in this very specific area. Yeah. In both cases, we're better served for them to tell us the work. How do you work? Yeah. How, what things are happening? Where is the real latency?
Right.
You see what I mean? So like, I think it's a brilliant idea. He was talking about, I don't remember if he named names, but he was talking about like one company that does a shared Miro board and they draw together. Actually, Cosaglow said, he used to do that at Outreach too, right? And so this reverse demo idea is really intriguing to me. It's hard to guess. We make a big deal about AI and all these things where you can get some data capture that will allow you to at least drive interest. But like to really dig in, which is what you guys are talking about, right, and really get relevant, we have to understand, what they're trying to achieve and then work backwards for how they're exactly what they're doing today and where the holdups are. And that's where the reverse demo comes in. So I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you guys?
No, I love the notion of it, Matt. I'm curious what you're seeing.
I think it works for the right types of buyers. Here's the buyer that I don't think it would work for: marketers. And here's the thing: like I worked in MarTech for a long time. There's a phrase, right? And people don't use this all the time anymore, but like, buyers are liars, right? And there is no greater liar as a buyer than a marketer. A marketer will lie and tell you all the things that they're doing because they have so much debt. They have so much like process debt, tech debt, like they're just trying to stay up to date with like what their board's expecting, what their CEO's expecting. Like they will not tell you the truth about their process. They'll be like, oh yeah, we run the cleanest Marketo instance, or we have the cleanest reporting in Salesforce. And like, they don't. The other thing that marketers often don't realize is like their problems are really ubiquitous, right? So they're like, they hold their little problems inside their little, they play it very close to the vest, right? They're just like, no, this is unique. All marketers have the same problems, all of them, every single one, but they don't like to admit it. So I think like that is a very tough sales tactic to run on a marketer, but I think towards other audiences, it's brilliant, especially in things like IT infrastructure. People who are really willing to sit down and diagram. Yeah. Most marketers, I think, would just be like, oh, yeah, well, I'm looking for this AI solution that does this, that, and the other. Tell me about your process today. Well, we run a super clean process, but we're just looking for some level of scale. The problem is that that's probably not true.
Liars.
Yeah. Well, Lauren has to sell to you guys all the time, so I'm sure she opens up. Okay, so I'm calling.
Then I got to ask a question. Lauren, which buyers are the biggest liars?
Oh God, you're gonna get her in trouble with. She did persona work, Matt. Like she knows her.
Listen, there's
if it's marketers, blink twice.
I was gonna say we used to joke at one of the organizations I was with that there was 3 kinds of buyers, and there's ones that you love the most. I mean, there's those that know everything, and the ones that know everything, honestly, are probably going to waste a lot of your time, and they're going to end up buying based on a set of criteria that will never be transparent, like not the best kind to dance with. And then there's the type that don't even know enough to be dangerous, and those are the type that are going to really struggle to get anything approved by an executive team or a board because they're just not deep enough into it. And in that case, you've kind of got to go around them and work with the board or the CEO or whoever's making the case. And the best kind, the kind that I love to have, myself and our team point towards, are those that know enough to be dangerous and know what good looks like and are therefore willing to kind of open up, the conversation and be real and say like, listen, here's what I think good looks like, but I can't, I don't have it on paper, or I can't make the business case for it. Like, help me. And when you can get to that point, 10 times out of 10, you've got to win. And you really know what's going to make it a win for them. You've invested the time.
So that sounds, Matt, like a reverse demo from Lauren on steroids, and she's extracting the right information. But actually, the thing that I was really intrigued by with Lauren on that is the nuance in the persona. That the persona that works great, for her is the leadership or the, whoever you're working with, I get, it could be organizational leadership that knows what good looks like. Because then, that way you can work together and they actually probably have a better definition of what the problems look like. That's intriguing. All right. So what reverse demo concept, great. In practice, we'll have to see. According to Matt, right. Do not try said reverse demo to CMOs because they will lie. Is that right?
Well, marketers.
Nice summary.
All right. Yeah. So I get that. What about on the marketing side, like with the folks that you're working with, are there things that they're doing that you are noticeably different from your years of experience today based on changing buying behavior that's notable for us to think about as a market?
I mean, listen, I'd say the number of marketers that I'm selling into today is more limited. It's more, I'd say, go-to-market as a whole.
Which is a trend in and of itself. Yeah,
it is a trend in and of itself. I mean, I think, and I don't know if this is where you're pointing the question, but 2 anecdotes I'll share. One is that, it used to be that we needed to get product and marketing and sales aligned. And I even remember years ago getting on stage, making a correlation of the 3 amigos needing to ride into the sunset together. Like it was a very small and narrow group and you needed to drive alignment. And I would say that when we look at what it takes to really make smart buying decisions today, there's a whole cast of, people that have important roles in go-to-market. You've got your RevOps team, you've got your marketing team, you've got your sales team, you've got, your FP&A, like finance is a critical part of it. And so I do think, driving alignment and helping to be the thread that connects all of the team members in a decision is really, really important. Again, I don't know if that's where you were going with the comment, but that's something that I see as critical between the teams that are successful in connecting with customers as they're understanding the dynamics of it.
Yeah. That's new.
It's hard to know if it's new or not. I mean, managing multiple stakeholders in an enterprise sale is not a new thing, but it's more than managing multiple stakeholders. It's really about helping to facilitate a conversation where they're all, understanding the problem in the same way and can connect back to a common denominator. And I think that's super, super important.
But then, like, if you're going in to work with an organization on go-to-market, which I think is new, the fact that it's not one place, you're looking at the entire revenue cycle and helping there. I think that's new.
Yeah. Yes.
But who's off? Are you brought in through one function and then you bring them all together? Or is there, who do you work with if we're looking at the entire go-to-market?
I think that depends on the organization, right? When you get into a company, in some cases, you've got someone in an FP&A role who has been brought in to help the company think about, what it's going to take to go public. And they are looking at a very kind of specific set of metrics that's going to be critical. In another case, you've got, a CEO who has just gotten backed by private equity, and they know they've got, 2 to 3 years to, get the company to a certain number. And so they've got a set of objectives. So it really depends on, I think, where a business is in its maturity, to answer that question of who cares most. But I mean, as both of you know from all your work in go-to-market and your work with all these, companies that are in their growth stages, it's a team sport. It takes everybody.
Yeah.
It takes everybody.
Oh, without a doubt. But Matt, in your organizations, if I were going to sell to you guys, who would I go to talk about the go-to-market?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I think just because new CMO, new CRO in the organization, you'd have to talk to both of us because we're reshaping the go-to-market strategy right now. And I think every decision that Kelly's making is a decision that impacts me, and every decision that I'm making is a decision that impacts her. And so, we're pretty tightly aligned right now. I mean, I don't know if that lasts for forever, especially as a business starts to scale. But at this point, you'd have to sell to both of us. And then you'd want to have our RevOps in the room as well, to understand how are we going to do the implementation here? How are we going to measure the success? It only makes sense to be selling at committee already at an early stage of a business.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, I think that I think that's right. By the way, I forgot. So your CRO is a woman in revenue. Does Lauren know about her?
Do you know Kelly DeHart?
I don't know if I know her, but we need to rope her in.
Yeah, Matt, please support the cause. Thank you.
I do support the cause. She was the CRO at Gainsight beforehand.
Oh, okay.
You probably ran into her. Yeah. All right.
I was going to say yes.
You know what I've noticed in the I would say in the last 2 years, the best integrated go-to-market, let's call it Series C up, because my world's Series A and B, that's, you do have to do what Matt said, or the CEO is a go-to-market folk, which is very rare. You would have to do the sort of CRO CMO combo. But I would say the most integrated go-to-market round C up, what I've seen, and everyone is they have a strategic RevOps. The strategic RevOps folks are amazing. They understand all the machinery in the business. They understand the metrics. They're if you talk to Tom Murtaugh, do you remember him from Big ID? He's an operating partner now, but that dude, the CMO, she still did her own thing, but that guy knew all the ties that bind. And like he knew where the real issues were that we should spend time in the go-to-market to either accelerate or grow things. Yeah. And he is uncommon, but organizations that have strategic RevOps like him, those folks their integration, the team sport playing is incredible. And, I actually have to look back where he reported. I'm not sure they always need to report to the CRO, depends on the CRO, but like when you have like that strategic RevOps, that is one of the tells that I have that, these folks are thinking about the entire life cycle together. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but I think that's not qualitative, but that feels like a real thing.
Yeah, I think the first time I ran into a person like that is he's in a portfolio company at scale now. He's runs that function at Socure, and that's Colin Gerber. And that was the first time. Guy. Yeah, that was the first time I saw somebody who was super strategic as an ops professional, and he reported into the chief financial officer for a while, and like it was a skill set I had never seen before, where it was somebody who understood both the sales and marketing stack, understood reporting, all that, but also had like an FP&A slant to him. Like, he was really driving my decisions around hiring.
It is a magician. Here's the deal. The thing with somebody like that is that when you understand how to architect growth, and everybody in the organization is understanding what that growth architecture looks like, and I am going to like lead the witness a little bit and say, that is part of the pleasure of what I get to do now, is to help companies think about this notion of revenue architecture. Yeah. But there really is a math and a science behind how to build smart companies. And then somebody who understands the math and science of it and then can architect, the technology and the infrastructure, like that is magic. And I really do think that is game changing in organizations. Now, they don't always hold the power, but as long as they report into again, the head of finance or the head of revenue, and I think there's a lot of debate about which one it should be. Some even push to report into the CEO. And again, there's pros and cons of all of those. But if everyone in the team, back to the question, one or two questions ago, like that's the money, that's the magic.
Yeah, it was wild that Lauren went to FP&A, by the way, in the early part of one of your answers. That intrigued me. That intrigued me quite a bit. And then you're right. Like by the way, the finance function's role in bringing people together, underrated.
Underrated.
Yeah.
So underrated.
You are right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, you are right. At the end of the day, sales and marketing, have the accountability for growth.
Right.
But if it's not, aligned to the business and what the business outcomes are, then it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. So again, that in a good way, all of their goals are interchangeable.
Yeah.
That is truth sayer right there. So that, I think, on the whether you call it revenue architecture or whatever that might be, that is a really good point. And I know you don't worry. The self-fulfilling prophecy is relevant there because that you're helping people get there. And I think Adam, we had Adam on the show, the nudist side of things, thinking that same way. So that I can see where you've seen good here and help people get there. I think that's really important. I do think it's there's still like I'm still learning and trying to figure out what the formula is here. People always get in the way of these things. We had and that makes it tough. And that's why I'm really intrigued by the idea of either RevOps or FP, like these other folks in the organization, not to go back to that, but I think that's really interesting. But I think the most important point is what Lauren said, which is like, it's hard to win right now. And if you don't, it has to be a team sport. I think of it like whenever I'm watching my kids play basketball and like there's a kid on the other team, or not on my kid's team, thank you, no, who just trying to dribble and take the whole, go 1-on-5.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, he makes some, but like you can't win that way. And like, that's kind of, I don't think it's actually always the person who's trying to go 1-on-5 in business I think it's often the organization hasn't sort of solved for that to make it 5-on-5. And that's like today, like you have to be able to throw the book at winning business. And so working together and, creating a revenue architecture or revenue process or whatever you want to call it that you can look at, that's where everyone's working together across the various touch points of the buyer makes total sense. So there you have it. Anything else we want to add? We're at the buzzer. We got 2-minute warning.
Listen, I would love if there's a way to give a call to action to womeninrevenue.org. I will say it is a free organization to become a member of. We know from our recent study that you can also get on that website that 44% of women would like to have a mentor, believe that it's more important now than ever and don't know how to find one. So you can actually come to this site, and any of the women in the Scale portfolio, any of the women in the companies that you work with can come and get a mentor for free and or volunteer to be a mentor, guys too. So we'd love to pull people in. We'd love to give everyone that leg up and fulfill the promise of one woman helping another woman be better than she could be on her own.
I love that, man.
Ending on with a motivational plug. It's served for both mic. Plug and motivation. So, by the way, Lauren's going to Tulum, and she was pretending it's not like a she place to go. She's like, oh, no, it's kind of rough around the edges down there. She's going to be doing yoga, like all that kind of, it's very... How many pictures did we see of stars cruising the beaches of Tulum back in the... It's like the spot. I'm very happy for you.
Well, now the Goldsteins are showing up. So, watch out, paparazzi. Here we come.
Oh, I'm sure.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it.
You deserve it.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of The Transaction. Craig and I really appreciate the fact that you've listened all the way to the end. What are you actually doing here? For show notes and other episodes, please visit us at thetransactionpod.com. Like and subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any other place you get your podcast from. Either you have walked away from your podcast device, or this is playing somewhere in the background. Someone in your house would really like for you to shut this off now.